Jai Gurudev. So we read till page 266 last week. We have to begin with page 267. It is again just a continuation. Yeah, it's not very different. So page 267, we'll read all in one go. Even page 268 is also mostly a repetition. So who's going to start with page 267?
I can read.
Yeah, okay.
Vasistha continued. All these, the ego sense and the space, etc., have acquired the nature of the real substances, though they have not been created at all. Where nothing has arisen, been created, there everything is seen. Even so, the sages, gods, and the perfected ones remain in their transcendental consciousness, tasting the bliss of their own nature. They have abandoned the illusion of duality of the observer and the object, and the consequent movement of the thought. Their gaze is fixed and unwinking. Though these sages are active here, they do not entertain the least notion of illusory existence. They are firmly rooted in the abandonment of the relationship between the knower and the known, subject and object. Their life force is not agitated. It is as if they were painted pictures. Their mind does not move, even as the mind of painted figures does not move, for they have abandoned the conceptualizing tendency of the consciousness. They engage themselves in appropriate activity by the little movement of thought in consciousness, even as the Lord does. However, such movement of thought and the experiencing of the contact of the observer with the object also produce great joy in them. Their consciousness is absolutely pure, purified of all images, concepts, and notions. Such a state of purity of the self, the true nature of the infinite consciousness, is not a vision, an experience of the mind and the senses. It is incapable of being taught. It is not very easy, nor is it far distant or impossible. It is attained by direct experience alone. That alone exists, not else. Either the body, nor the senses and life force, neither the mind, nor the storehouse of memory or latent tendencies, neither the jiva, nor even a movement in consciousness, neither consciousness nor the world. It is neither real nor unreal, nor something in between, neither void nor non-void, neither time nor space nor substantiality. Free from all these and free from 100 wheels in the heart, one should experience the self in all that is seen. It is neither the beginning nor the end, because it is ever present everywhere. It is taken for something else. Thousands are born and thousands die, but the self which is everywhere, inside and outside, is not affected. It remains in all these bodies, etc., as if it were just a little different from the infinite. Though radiantly engaged in diverse activities, remain free from the senses of I-ness and minus. For whatever is seen in this world is Brahman, free from characteristics and qualities. It is eternal, peaceful, pure, and utterly quiescent.
So this whole page is a repetition, more like a summary of what we've done so far. So we'll go quickly over it. All these, ego sense and the space, etc., have acquired the nature of real substances, though they have not been created at all. Just like in a dream, any creation in your dream, whether of a horse, a monkey, a human being, or just your ego, all of it is a dream. It is not created. Like that, this entire creation, whatever it is, whether it is my ego or it is really a tree or a human being that I see in front of me, everything is a dream, not created. Where nothing has arisen, there everything is seen. Even so, the sages, gods, and the perfected ones remain in their transcendental consciousness, tasting the bliss of their own nature. They have abandoned the illusion of duality of the observer and the object and the consequent movement of thought. Their gaze is fixed and unwinking. So, in this creation of mind that I have created, there are also sages, there are enlightened beings. Yeah. Have they created this illusion? Are they part of this dream? No, not the way I think. Yeah. I am lost in this Maya thinking it is real. This is true. I hold on to it. Yeah. A sage might be in the same world, in the same creation of mind, but he is not holding on to it. That grasp, that want, yeah, that desire, that vasana is missing in him. That is the difference between a mere mortal and an enlightened sage. They just remain in this transcendental consciousness, tasting the bliss of their own nature. Why? Because they have abandoned the illusion of the duality of observer and the object. I am still lost in I and you. Yes, I still see Dvaitam. A sage has reached the stage of Advaitam. Though these sages are active here, they do not entertain the least notion of illusory existence. They are firmly rooted in the abandonment of the relationship between the knower and the known, subject and object. Their life force is not agitated. It is as if they were painted pictures. Their mind does not move, even as the mind of painted figures does not move. For they have abandoned the conceptualizing tendency of the consciousness. So, how can I reach that stage of an enlightened state, of an enlightened sage? Only by abandoning this conceptualization, that I'm constantly lost in my own concepts and my own notions, my own ideas and thoughts. Yeah? The moment I manage to come from this chattering mind to absolutely a silent no mind. Yeah? I have dropped conceptualization. There I see reality as it is. Got it? That is the only difference. There is no other difference between you and a sage. Yeah? The only difference is of mind and no mind. Clear? They engage themselves in appropriate activity by a little movement of thought in consciousness. So you will ask this question. So if Guruji and other people like Gurudev, enlightened people, do not engage in thoughts, how can they even work? How can they do seva? Even to do seva, a thought has to come. Na? I have to do this, I have to go here, I have to help this person. That is thought. So he says, they engage themselves in the appropriate activity by a little movement of thought. Very little. Just enough for a particular action to be accomplished. That's it. It ends there. You will say, I do the same. I have to go to work. I get up, I get ready and I go to work. Is that true? No. Even when I have to go to work, just that thought of I have to go to work, oh, then this might happen. What if this happens? Then if this happens, I'm going to react this way. And if the other thing happens, I'm going to say this. You've already created your Manohar Kahaniya. Yeah, your own wonderland is already existent in your head. Your entire drive of 20 minutes, 30 minutes to your office, you're lost in conceptualizing. That's not how a sage works. The sage had only first thought that I have to get from point A to point B to accomplish task C. The end. You saw the difference? You understood what is conceptualization? Yeah. Their life force, however, such movement of thought and the experiencing of the contact of the observer with the object also produce great joy in them. Yeah. How do you get joy? Let's start with the basic thing. How do we get joy?
The fulfillment of a desire.
Perfect. So where is my focus? Outside. On that action. If this action follows this particular direction, I'm going to get joy from it. I've already related my joy to that particular action or the karma phalam of that action. Yeah? A sage does not link his inner joy to that external object. Yeah? He works from a space of joy. Yeah? So even when there is contact with an external object, there is joy. It doesn't matter whether the sage's seva gets accepted or rejected. Yeah, whether that action happens or it doesn't happen. He's not worried about the karma phala. Clear? Yeah. Their consciousness is absolutely pure, purified of all images. In our head, when there are concepts and notions and thoughts, they are not always in words. Yeah? They are images. Yes? Even when there is an image in the head, there is still conditioning, there is still conceptualization going on. For a sage, it is no mind, blank. Yeah? There is no conceptualization, there is no image. Yeah? Even if a simple thing you take as you are driving to work, you have a particular image of that road. Yeah? You are really looking at the image in your head. You are not really looking at the real road. Recognize this. That is why sometimes you happen to miss the exit and suddenly wake up, oh, I missed the exit. Why? Because in my head I was following the image of that road. I was not really looking at the road as it is. Yeah? This was a very simple example. Now apply this to your relationships. You think that the other person is saying sentence A. He is wanting to say B. But you have implied A because in the past you have an image of he had said this A. Happens? Yeah? Many times spouses say to each other, I really didn't mean that. What are you thinking? No, last time you said that. No. So I'm thinking about that only. But today I'm not saying the same thing and you'll end up in a quarrel. Noticed? Yeah? Why? Because you're working from past images. Yeah, they might not be sitting in your head as words from the past. It's just an image sitting in your head. That creates conceptualization. That creates expectations. Those expectations, when not met, create disappointment, and that chain goes on and on till you become angry, and then there is that whole drama. Yeah? This drama, this entire drama of conceptualization is missing, is absent in a sage's mind, or Chittakasha of the sage is pure. Understood purity? I was explaining purity through this whole thing. That entire Alice in Wonderland story in my head makes me impure. Yeah? A sage sees reality as it is. What is inside is outside. That is purity. Clear? Such a state of purity of the self, the true nature of the infinite consciousness, is not a vision. What is the meaning of a vision? A vision is an experience of the mind and the senses. Means I can experience it through these senses, yeah, or perceive it through the mind. But he's saying it is not a vision. This purity of the self is that inner consciousness which is absolutely soft, is absolutely clean. Yeah, I'll give you an example. Suppose someday you lie to somebody. Yeah? Manipulate, lie, whatever, hide the truth. You feel a little pinch inside. Yes? That little pinch inside, that bitterness inside, that not good feeling inside is impurity. Yes? Now imagine a state of no pinch of any hatred, anger, jealousy, irritation, annoyance, being upset, dislike, nothing. Not even of love or passion, nothing. Just a calm lake, absolutely still lake. Yeah? It is an experience. It cannot be seen, it cannot be heard, it cannot be touched or tasted or smelled. Clear? It's just an experience. It is incapable of being taught. It is not very easy, nor is it far distant or impossible. It is attained by direct experience alone. Yeah? You cannot get it through Ekta's experience. You cannot get it through a guru's experience. You cannot get it by reading this book. You can only achieve it by your own experience. Yeah? So we've been, for the Buddha weekend, we had taken some vows. Yeah? When you stick to that vow, I will not lie, I will not steal, yeah, I will not hurt anybody, come what may, no killing. Yeah? When you stick to these basic vows and then go on to, I will refrain from sexual misconduct, I will refrain from harsh speech, yeah, from covetousness, from ill will. When you actually stick to these vows for a few months, inside you start feeling very calm and serene. Noticed? Yeah? That serenity that comes up. Even if I lose something because I was not ready to lie and not ready to hide, I might have lost something, a job opportunity, somebody got angry with me. Doesn't matter, but inside I feel very pure. Yes? That experience of purity is what he is talking about. You can only experience it. Okay? That alone exists, not else. Neither the body, nor the senses and life force. Neither the mind, nor the storehouse of memory or latent tendencies. Here latent tendencies means impressions of karma. Neither the jiva nor even a movement in consciousness. Neither consciousness nor the world. everything, all this is but a dream, he says. It is neither real nor unreal, nor something in between, neither void nor non-void, neither time nor space nor substantiality. Free from all these and free from 100 veils in the heart, one should experience the self in all that is seen. Yeah, this is easier said than done. It is so difficult to really see how this is unreal. This is all real. This is my house. This is my table. This is my computer. How do I see this as unreal? Yeah, he said you cannot really experience it because of others' words. Only when you make an effort, only when you go deeper into your meditation, when you start vibrating like a ball of prana, you come to a level where you recognize everything is just vibrating at that same prana level. And then you know, oh, it is all but a vibration. Matter does not exist. Yeah. It is neither the beginning nor the end, because it is ever present everywhere. It is taken for something else. Thousands are born and thousands die, but the self which is everywhere, inside and outside, is not affected. It remains in all these bodies, etc., as if it were just a little different from the infinite. For example, this space. In this space today there is this house. This house can drop down and another building can come up here. In this one space there can be another 40 houses in a single tower. Yeah? The bodies change. The space remains the same. Like that only this Prakriti can fall off. This Prakriti changes. But the consciousness in which this Prakriti is, in which the next Prakriti will be, and in which the previous Prakriti was, remains the same. Yeah? Though radiantly engaged in diverse activities, remain free from the sense of I-ness and mine-ness. For whatever is seen in this world is Brahman, free from characteristics and qualities. It is eternal, peaceful, pure, and utterly quiescent. Yeah, that was just a repetition. Everything is just that consciousness. We read the next page.
Rama asked, if Brahman does not undergo any modification at all, how does this world appearance, which is and is not real, arise in it? Vasistha replied, true modification, O Rama, is a transformation of a substance into another, like the curdling of milk, in which case the curd cannot once again return to its milk state. Such is not the case with Brahman, which was unmodified before the world appearance, and which regains its unmodified state after the world disappearance. Both in the beginning and in the end, it is unmodified, homogeneous consciousness. The momentary and apparent modification in this is but a mild disturbance of consciousness, not a modification at all. In that Brahman there is neither a subject nor an object of consciousness. Whatever a thing is in the beginning and in the end, that alone it is. If it appears to be something else in the middle, that appearance is regarded as unreal. Hence, the self is the self in the beginning and in the end, and therefore in the middle too. It never undergoes any transformation or modification. Rama asked again, in that self, which is pure consciousness, how does this mild disturbance arise? Vasistha replied, I am convinced, O Rama, that the infinite consciousness alone is real and that there is no disturbance at all in its nature. We use words like Brahman just for the sake of communication or instruction, not to raise notion of one and two, you and I, and all these things are pure Brahman. There is no ignorance at all. Rama asked again. But at the end of the previous section, you exhorted me to inquire into the nature of this ignorance. Vasistha replied, Yes. At that time, you were still not fully awakened. Such expressions as ignorance, jiva, etc. have been invented as aids to instructing the unawakened. One should use common sense and suitable aids. Yukti also commonly means trick, to awaken the seeker before imparting the knowledge of the truth. If one declares all this is Brahman to an awakened person, it is like a man petitioning a tree for relief from his suffering. It is by suitable aids that the unawakened is awakened. The awakened is enlightened by the truth. Thus now that you are awakened, I declare the truth to you. You are Brahman. I am Brahman. The whole universe is Brahman. Whatever you are doing, realize this truth at all times. This Brahman or the Self alone is the reality in all beings. Even as clay is the real substance in thousands of pots, even as the wind and its movement are non-different consciousness and its internal movement, energy, which causes all these manifestations are non-different. It is the seed of notion falling on the soil of consciousness that gives rise to apparent diversity. If it does not so fall, mind does not sprout. Continue.
No, I'll read. If Brahman does not undergo any modification at all, how does this world appearance, which is and is not real, arise in it? True modification, O Rama, is a transformation of a substance into another, like the curdling of milk, in which case the curd cannot once again return to its milk state. Yeah, so even the word transformation is not correct, yeah, in regards to this creation. Yeah, because this creation goes back to that nothingness again. Yeah. For example, if you have a still lake, absolutely a still lake, yeah, and you throw a stone in the middle of the lake, what happens? There are ripples. The ripples come up. Do you call that ripple as a transformation in the lake? No. So there is no transformation. The ripples last for a while. Till they last, it looks different. The lake looks like up and down instead of that flat mirror-like surface. That mirror-like effect is gone. How long will it last? 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? After that, the lake will become absolutely silent again. Everything will settle down and that mirror-like appearance will come back again. Correct? So that one little ripple was not a transformation. Yeah? Anything that was in the beginning and in the end also it is the same. Only in the middle there is a little change. Yeah? That change in the middle is said to be unreal. That which it was in the beginning and is same at the end, that is what is real. Understood? Yeah? So it's not like the curdling of milk which cannot go back. Yeah? So what are we talking about? This creation, this man, woman, humans, objects, trees, insects, plants, I, you, And all these wars, all this drama that is there in this creation is just merely a ripple. It will soon end. Yeah. Such is not the case with Brahman, which was unmodified before the world appearance and which regains its unmodified state after the world disappearance. Both in the beginning and in the end, it is unmodified, homogeneous consciousness. This you should highlight. And that is why it is called Anadi and Ananta. Yeah? Anadi, beginningless. Ananta, endless. Yeah? Because it is that same homogeneous consciousness in the beginning and the end. It is something that does not lose its base. What it is, always, that is what is real. That little ripple in the middle for a little while is unreal. Means this creation, this I and you and this Yoga Vasistha class is all unreal. The momentary and apparent modification in this is but a mild disturbance of consciousness, not a modification at all. In that Brahman, there is neither a subject nor an object of consciousness. Whatever a thing is in the beginning and in the end, that alone it is. If it appears to be something else in the middle, that appearance is regarded as unreal. Hence, the self is the self in the beginning and in the end, and therefore in the middle too. Yeah, this is where mathematics comes in, spiritual mathematics. It never undergoes any transformation or modification. So Rama asks again, in that self which is pure consciousness, how does this mild disturbance even arise? So Vasistha says, really, in that infinite consciousness, there is nothing like a disturbance only. Yeah? That infinite consciousness alone is real and there is no disturbance at all in its nature. We just use words like Brahman for the sake of communication, instruction, not to raise notions of one and two, you and I and all these things. Are pure Brahman, there is no ignorance at all. Yeah? Just for the sake of mere instruction, all this is there. Yeah? For example, if you see a dream in the night, yeah, and it's absolutely a nonsensical dream. You're flying, suddenly you're sitting in the grass, you're suddenly become an insect, and then you become a human, and then you become a mermaid in the ocean, and there is absolutely no relevance. If we sit and dissect your dream and talk about all these different visions that you had, yeah, we are talking about that which really is not. Yes, but you saw it. You went through that period of 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long your dream lasted. Yeah, so for that much time, that dream was real. Correct? So we sit and analyze your dream and we give it words. Yeah? It is just for the sake of instruction, for you to wake up that this is just a dream. Yeah? Like that only all these words, disturbance, Brahman, self, consciousness, I, you, all these are just words for explanation. Clear? But at the end of the previous section, you exhorted me to inquire into the nature of this ignorance. Vasistha says, yes, at that time you was still not fully awakened. Before going ahead, ask yourself this question, are you awakened yet? A little bit? Such expressions as ignorance, jiva, etc. have been invented as aids to instruct the unawakened. One should use common sense and suitable aids like yukti to awaken the seeker before imparting the knowledge of the truth. If one declares all this is Brahman to an unawakened person, it is like a man petitioning a tree for relief from his suffering. It is by suitable aids that the unawakened is awakened. The awakened is enlightened by the truth. Thus, now that you are awakened, I declare the truth to you. Yeah. So initially we didn't speak about all these things. Yeah. Initially simple, Patanjali. Yeah. What you should do, have self-discipline. Yeah. Drop this chitter chatter of the mind, sit and meditate, do seva. Yeah. So all these simple things are taught where you learn to wean away from this material world and for some time go within. You're taught to go within and meditate, at least for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You close your eyes where you're not sleeping. So it was like your first experience of being with yourself, really being with yourself. And then you start going in slowly, deeper and deeper into that silence. You go deeper into self-knowledge. Then awakening happens after a long time. Only to sincere people. Yeah, not to everybody. So till the time you're not reached that stage, we do simple instruction, no? Yeah. So that's where he was talking about ignorance and inquire into your ignorance. Yeah, recognize your dreaming. Yeah, that was inquire into your ignorance. But now that you are awakened, I will declare the truth to you. And what is the truth? You are Brahman. I am Brahman. The whole universe is Brahman. Whatever you are doing, realize this truth at all times. That's your homework for today. Whatever you do, you go to work, you go, just be with the family, you go in your social circle. You don't have to tell the people, but a recognition from within. This person is Brahman. Yeah, this office space is Brahman. Whatever, if you meet a crazy fellow on the road who throws a stone at you, yeah, look at him and say, this is also Brahman. Everything is Brahman. This Brahman or the self alone is the reality in all beings, even as clay is the real substance in thousands of pots. Even as wind and its movement are non-different, consciousness and its internal movement, which causes all these manifestations, are non-different. It is the seed of notion falling on the soil of consciousness that gives rise to apparent diversity. If it does not so fall, mind does not sprout. This last line is very beautiful. It is the seed of notion. Yeah. What is a notion? Even before a thought comes, I like this, I want this, I don't like this. First there is a notion. Yeah. I want pizza or I want chocolate cake. First there is a notion within. Yeah. And then that notion leads to a sensation within. The sensation is either pleasant or unpleasant depending on the notion. And then the thought comes, oh, I like this. I like chocolate cake. I want chocolate cake. Thought comes later. Yeah. So the seed of notion falls into the soil of consciousness, and that gives rise to apparent diversity. Yeah. So what happened in that pool of consciousness? First there was the notion of I am. That notion was that seed. It fell into the pool of consciousness and gave rise to I. And because there is I, there is also you. And that's how diversity began. Clear? Go to the next page, 269.
Rama said, What is to be known is known. What is to be seen is seen. We are all filled with the supreme truth. Thanks indeed to the nectarine wisdom of Brahman, imparted by you. This fullness is filled with fullness. Fullness is born from fullness. Fullness itself, fullness fills fullness. In fullness, fullness is ever established. However, for the further expansion of awareness, I ask again, pray bear with me. These sense organs are obviously present in all. Yet how is it that the dead person does not experience sensations, though while living he experienced their objects through those organs? Vasistha continued, apart from the pure consciousness, there are neither the senses, the mind, nor even their objects. It is that consciousness alone which appears as the objects in nature and as the senses in the person. When that consciousness has apparently become the subtle body, Purya-sakta, it reflects the external objects.
Okay. I'll explain this much, then we'll go ahead. What is to be known is known. What is to be seen is seen. We are all filled with the supreme truth. Thanks indeed to the nectarine wisdom of Brahman, imparted by you. So he is just grateful here. There's not much to explain. This fullness is filled with fullness. Yeah? The consciousness is full of love, full of compassion. Yeah? It is filled with fullness. Fullness is born from fullness. Prakriti is born out of this consciousness. But does it make consciousness less, or does it deplete consciousness? No, like a baby is born out of a mother's womb, the baby is also complete and the mother is also complete. Yes? Like that only when the Prakriti is born out of Purusha, or Prakriti is born out of Brahman consciousness is still full. Got it? So fullness is born from fullness. Fullness fills fullness. In fullness, fullness is ever established. Yeah? All this Prakriti is established in that Brahman consciousness only. Prakriti is also complete or full by itself. It's Purna. Yeah? Try and understand the word Purna. English does not do the justice that the word Purna does. Yeah? So even Prakriti is Purna in itself, and the Brahman consciousness is Purna in itself. Yeah? Whether it comes out of it or at the end of the creation goes back into it. It fills it up. Yeah? Still, it fills it up the way salt dissolves in water or sugar dissolves in water. Clear? However, for the further expansion of awareness, I ask again, pray bear with me. The sense organs are obviously present in all. Yet, how is it that the dead person does not experience sensations, though while living he experienced their objects through those organs? So Vasistha continued, apart from the pure consciousness, there are neither the senses, the mind, nor even their objects. So what really exists? Just the Brahman consciousness, the pure consciousness. The mind is a creation, is a dream. The mind's objects are a dream. Yeah? And the senses of the physical body are also a dream. They are unreal. It is that consciousness alone which appears as the objects in nature and as the senses in the person. Yeah? The same consciousness appears as objects in nature and the senses in the person. We discussed this when we spoke about Puryastaka. Yeah? How from the eye the Puryastaka comes, and then from the Puryastaka the Antavahika, Vihika comes. Yeah? So first eye comes, then there is again notions that leads to mind, that leads to the notion of the body, and that leads to the physical body. Remember? Yeah. So it is basically just the consciousness behind all these objects as well as the senses. When that consciousness has apparently become the subtle body, Puryastaka, it reflects the external objects. Highlight this. This line has been explained in the next two paragraphs. Now I'll explain the next two paragraphs. I'll only read it. Yeah. The eternal and infinite consciousness is indeed free of all modifications. But when there arises the notion of I am in it, that notion is known as the Jiva. So now let's look at this. Is this very clear? Visible clearly, no? In the pool of consciousness, first there is a notion. The notion is I am. Whatever notion is there, that manifests. Yeah. So it's like, first I have a notion, full day I didn't get chocolate ice cream to eat. So somewhere a little seed gets deposited in my consciousness as a notion. So in my dream what happens? That notion comes up first, and then I see myself eating chocolate ice cream. This is clear how the dream works? Exactly like that. In the pool of consciousness, first there is a vibration, and that gives you a sensation of I am. Because you start vibrating with that prana. Yeah? That I am gives the manifestation of a jiva. This is a dream. It is born of the notion of I am. Yeah? It is not real, it is a dream. Yeah? That's how the jiva is born. Correct? That's the first line. I'll read that line again. The eternal and infinite consciousness is indeed free of all modifications. But when there arises the notion of I am in it, that notion is known as the jiva. Very clear? First line. It is that jiva that lives and moves in this body. When the notion of I arises, I is aham bhavana. This is in Sanskrit. Aham bhavana arises. Yeah. It is known as ego sense, ahankara. Ahankara is ego sense. So first there is just a bhavana, I, and that manifests as my ego sense. Yeah? This is all a dream, remember. When there are thoughts, manana, it is known as mind, manas. When there are thoughts, manana, it is known as mind, manas. When there is awareness, bodha, it is intelligence, buddhi. Yeah? These are only notions arising. Yeah? There is awareness that suddenly arises. Yeah? That manifests as buddhi. All these 7 levels of existence are coming up if you are seeing. Yeah? This is how you come into existence. When seen by the individual soul Indra, it is known as the sense Indriya. This only soul is thinking or has notions. This only soul sees. Yeah. So seeing is the one sense that has been talked about here. You have to assume the other 4. Sight, sound, taste, touch and smell. So when there is drish, which is the sense of sight, the indriya are born. Which indriya are these? You remember the internal Indriya in the Puryastaka we had done some 100 pages ago? Yeah? The sense of sight exists in my subtle body as a tanmatra. Yeah? That degree of light is already there in my subtle body. And from where did that degree of light get born in my subtle body? From here, drish. From this notion, it is a notion of seeing. From the notion of sight, my sense of sight is born. From the notion of sound, my sense of sound is born, or the tanmatra of sound is born in the subtle body. From my notion of touch, the tanmatra of touch will be born in the Puryastaka. This is all Puryastaka. Yes? Just from this notion, these Indriya are born. So far very clear? The moment the tanmatra inside the subtle body are all set, what happens? The notion of body happens, or notion of matter. Earth, water, fire, ether, air. I did not write here. Here you can write earth, water, fire, ether, air. That is the notion of matter. And that gives rise to the physical body. So when the notion of body prevails, it appears to be body. Once there is body, the notion of body is I am this person, or I am this thing, or whatever, I am a plant or an insect. There is a you immediately. That you becomes my object. So there is a notion of an object first. That notion gives rise to the diverse objects. Clear? Everything begins with a notion. If there was no notion, all this would have not happened. Yeah? However, through the persistence of these notions, the subtle personality condenses into material substantiality. Till here it was subtle personality. Yeah? Till here it was just Puryastaka. And slowly, because this notion became stronger of matter, it became a physical or a material substantiality. When you go deeper and deeper really, you see, oh, even Puryastaka is just a material substantiality. Even Puryastaka is not subtle. Yeah, because if I really inquire, in subtlety I am that consciousness. Yeah. Even this mind, that chitta chatter mind, is not I. It is not subtle. So as we progress, we'll start recognizing that even mind is material. Even intellect is material. Even ego is material. It is not subtle.
In fact, there is no material at all. This is all just for our thing.
Perfect.
For our understanding.
Absolutely.
It's like a wool, it becomes a sweater and then you can take it out and it will become wool again.
Very nice example, Auntie.
You can make different flowers, different design, everything, but it's the same wool.
Perfect. 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 The same consciousness thereafter thinks I am the body, I am the tree, etc. Thus self-deluded, it arises and falls until it attains a pure birth and is spiritually awakened. Then by being devoted to the truth, it attains self-knowledge. Yeah, so many lifetimes we go through this process of notions. Many lifetimes till we attain a lifetime where we are spiritually awakened. Yeah? And then there is no going back. Yeah? Today somebody called me. It's been so long in knowledge and it seems so difficult. So difficult. I can't see any progress. There's this restlessness in me. I want to run away from you also now, she says. Yeah. But there is no way to go. Wherever I go, my mind goes with me. I said, good. This is a recognition. Yeah. The recognition is important that this is a one-way street. Have you recognized that you cannot go back now to ignorance? Yeah. Back to that material world and that material life, that ignorant life, enjoying. It's impossible to go back now. Even if you go back, you know you're faking it. Yeah, your mind says, oh no, I've got purified. This is just temporary pleasure. There is no real joy here. Yeah, and then you're pulled away from it. Yeah, this recognition itself is a spiritual awakening. Yeah, and you're lucky to be in this particular body, to reach this particular stage where spiritually you are progressing higher. Yeah? So you are almost there at the end of this story. Then by being devoted to the truth, it attains self-knowledge. That's the last stage for you. Just being devoted to the truth. I shall now tell you how it perceives the objects. This is a little complicated. Wake up, everybody. Yeah? Who perceives this jiva? How jiva perceives the objects. I said that on account of the notion of I am, consciousness abides as jiva in the body. When its senses descend upon similar bodies outside itself, there is contact between the two, and there is a desire to know, to become one with them. My dream has started the moment I said I am and I've become a jiva. My dream has begun. All this is happening in the dream. This jiva, because of its senses, perceives jiva too. Dream has begun. Because of the senses, the jiva 1 perceives jiva 2. This is the contact. This contact is happening in my dream. Yeah? Suppose in my dream, I see Sandeep. I am also in the dream. Sandeep is also in the dream. Clear? Because of my senses, I see Sandeep. When its senses descend upon similar bodies outside itself, there is contact between the two. Understood this? And there is a desire to know, to become one with them. When there is this contact, the object is reflected within oneself, and the jiva perceives this reflection, though it believes that the reflection is outside. In my dream only, I am seeing Sandeep, but I feel that I am separate and Sandeep is separate. He's outside. But really, is it outside? It is all in my mind. I am sleeping. I am dreaming. Got it? It's only a fictionary thing in my head that he is external. He is a reflection of my own mind. Yeah? So, see this really. Whatever bad people or good people there are in your life, whoever you have labeled as good and bad, or right and wrong, or whatever, pleasant and unpleasant, they are all a reflection of who you are or how you are. Are you seeing this? That's what he's saying here. It is all my own reflection. In the daytime, I didn't get a chance to eat chocolate ice cream. In the dream, I see chocolate ice cream. It's a reflection of my own mind. In the daytime, I wanted to speak to Sandeep. I didn't get a chance to pick up the phone and speak to him. In the night, in my dream, I'm having a discussion with Sandeep. It's a reflection of my own mind. Understood? That's how you and I are in this dream discussing Yoga Vasistha. That's how everybody in your world, your friends, your family, your children, parents, spouse, everybody is in your dream. Got it? Because of this contact, and this contact is also happening in the dream. This whole thing is a dream. I kept telling you right from the beginning. Yeah, it's a creation of your own mind. The jiva knows only this reflection, which means it knows itself. This contact is the cause of the perception of external objects. Hence, it is possible only in the case of ignorant one, whose mind is deluded, and not in the case of the liberated sage. Why? Because the liberated sage has recognized, oh, I am is the notion. And what happens to him? I drops. The moment I drops, this whole drama he can see. There is no I only. He has become one with the pool of consciousness. That is why it does not affect the liberated sage, but affects people like you and me. Of course, since the jiva, which is but a notion, and all the rest of it are inert and insentient, the reflection thus seen and experienced is in fact an optical illusion or intellectual perversion. The self is all in all the time. This whole drama is an optical illusion or an intellectual perversion. Recognize this. This is a very, very deep page. I want you to read this page again. Not once, a couple of times. Maybe 7 times in the next 7 days. Every day you'll understand it differently. Just this one page. The previous 2 were repetitions. Just this page 269, the last 2 paragraphs from the middle of the page. Read them again and again. And understand them in their depth. Because Ekta's experience cannot be your experience. You have to experience it yourself.
I did not understand how I created somebody else which I don't know before. How that part of the mind.
So in the beginning, you just created a microorganism. That's it. You were also just a microorganism. There was just I am. And because there is I am, you are. I and you came. So probably there was not much. The microorganism cannot see, smell, taste, touch, nothing. There's just an I and you. So initially there's not much. But to survive as a microorganism also you had to eat. So the first impression of food came, the impression of sex or procreation or multiplying into many came. You probably died as a microorganism in a few hours, and then you were born as maybe something else, a little ant. That also lived only 1 or 2 days, but food and sex. Then from that ant, you just created another ant. I creates you. Ant wants to eat sugar, so then it creates sugar. Then from there, you probably became a little insect, a little flying insect. A mosquito. Slowly, through the different janmas, we have created little impressions. Slowly, through so many lifetimes, you come to a human lifetime. So you've taken at least tens of thousands of lifetimes as insects, trees, plants, animals. Tens of thousands of lifetimes to reach a human lifetime. And then in that human lifetime also, Obviously, you've started having so many ragas and dveshas, so more and more lifetimes have been created. So that maturity in the intellect to come to the spiritual awakening happens only after 84,000 lifetimes.
So all these, whoever I know, is all my creation. Probably I knew them in my previous births.
Yes, all of them.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe not in the same form, not in the same body. Yeah, just a karmic exchange, either a raga or a dvesha.
My desire.
By my desire, correct.
Desires, fears, cravings, all those.
Yes, correct.
So it's like a Bhagavad Gita is coming.
Huh?
Bhagavad Gita.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
Yeah. So he says, Krishna says, in the beginning, I am there, you are there, and I will be there, and you will be there eternally.
Yeah. And then he says, I remember, but you have forgotten.
I remember, you don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you read these last two paragraphs repeatedly this week. You have to understand how from a notion something manifests. Yeah. That's homework number 2. When you start understanding this very clearly, you notice how things start happening in this week. Yeah. First you have a notion, let me eat karela today. Let me eat bhindi today. Yeah. Let me eat paneer today. A notion first comes, not in words. It's just a little notion which makes you go to the grocery aisle and pick that thing only.
Is that notion is sensation again?
Before the sensation, there is a notion.
Before this, okay.
Yeah. Notion produces a sensation, sensation produces a thought, and then you go and reach out to that thing. So you start recognizing, oh, this notion I had, and that's how it manifested today. I give you a simple example of food, but you see, yeah, you have a notion also, you prepare yourself, oh, when she comes home or when he comes home, I'm going to say this to him, I'm going to say that to him, I'm going to discuss this. You prepare all this. Yeah, and really like that only things manifest. Yeah, you land up in a quarrel, even though you say, no, I'm not going to fight, but I'm going to put my point across. But you land up in that fight. The notion of the fear of a fight was there already, and that manifested as that little quarrel. Yeah? So I'm just throwing out few examples. You observe how a notion leads to manifestation. You got this column, right? Manifestation. That's why I've explained this very clearly here. Yeah, and you will see every day a notion leads to some manifestation. Yeah, once you start recognizing it, you will come to a level where you can even control notions. Yeah, but baby steps. We'll get there one day. Let's start with identifying the notions, recognizing notions.
That's what intention is also, I guess, right? Notion can be intention.
Intention is again a thought, no? It's in words. Notion is even before. It's like a little seed that leads to the sensation. The sensation leads to thought. I'm telling you to go very deep and observe there is a notion. Just a little fear of, oh, I might lose this job. Yeah, the words also come later. There's just a little fear. Yeah, then a notion always gives birth to a sprout of emotion. The first sprout out of that seed of notion is always an emotion. It could be fear, it could be a sexual urge, it could be jealousy, it could be hatred, passion, competition, sense of achieving ambition. Yeah, you see, there's so many things that can come up. You have to learn to identify that little seed below that emotion. That seed is the notion. Understood your homework? Yeah. Start recognizing this. Only when you recognize can you actually start controlling it. All good? ठीक है. चलो, I'll see you next week. Yeah. Jai Gurudev.